The only benefit of this class is that you live life like a business person. It's like playing a chess game. You don't move with your emotions, you move with your reflection. Which means that once in a while you want to live life through your emotions, but you have lost that ability completely. Supposedly, this story has come out of the Buddha's mouth directly. I doubt that, but nevertheless, let's make our Buddhist friends in this class feel good. This is what the Buddha said, and Chris, correct me if the Buddha is wrong. There is a man who's walking the streets. He wants to go to Pete's, have some coffee, and mingle with some people. He's comfortable. He's proud. All of a sudden, an arrow, which has a poisonous tip, goes into his back. And he falls to the ground. When you're comfortable, you are forgetful. Comfort and content are two different things. When you're comfortable, you want to go to Pete's. You want to be in the crowd. You want to look at people. Because when you're in society looking at people, you don't see your own reflection. That's what laziness and comfort does. But when you're aware, when you think and reflect, you go to a party and other people are telling jokes and laughing, and you say, the hell am I doing here? The joke isn't even funny. I don't even like these people. Other people make you feel lonely. But when you're comfortable and when you're unreflective, other people do you lots of good. They make you laugh. They distract you. They entertain you. So the first thing you need to understand about the story is, if there are any gods up there, they love this young kid. They see potential in this young kid. Whoever has the bow and whoever is releasing the arrow loves this kid. But when you love something, you exercise cruelty. Because reflection is a very, very cruel tool to give to anyone. Because it creates pain. So as this kid has this arrow in his back with a poisonous tip, what happens? He falls to the ground. What do the rest of us do? You are selfish, self-centered, egotistical. What do you do? It matters very little how self-centered you may be, you know. The moment you see someone in pain, all of a sudden, you may be a piece of rock, but you melt. Another's pain melts you. You run to them. It's called compassion. It's called empathy. It's called sympathy. You run to them and you say, let me pick you up and rush you to Kaiser. That's one of the things you need to understand about pain. When you see pain, when you see a homeless person, not all the time, but sometimes, something about you opens up. And you say to yourself, I am tired of spending my own money on myself. I want to give it away. All of a sudden, the person who's in pain becomes your own extension, becomes your limb. It doesn't mean you understand his or her pain, but you certainly do want to provide some service. You want to be of some support. So all these people gather around and carry this person to Kaiser. And there are doctors and there are nurses, and they're there only for one purpose. You don't go to Kaiser when you're healthy. You go to Kaiser when you're not feeling well, or you assume that something about you is wrong. You don't go to Socrates when you're comfortable. You go to Socrates when you have pain. Not pain because your boyfriend left you. Not pain because you can't walk. You go to Socrates because you have money, you can pay rent, you can eat food, you have friends. You're just no longer enough. Your soul aches for meaning. In the Buddhist tradition, this is called the Sangha. A community of disciples and physicians who have only one goal in life. If anyone knocks on the door and they say, "We are sick," or "I am sick, help," the Sangha, everyone in that community will run to help this person in pain. And this young kid with a poisonous arrow in his back screams and shouts. And you would think that pain is enough motivation, enough inspiration to allow other people to do what they can to get rid of this pain that lives inside your body, mind, and soul. I have no doubt. Well, let's go back to our good friend, Peter. He has a friend somewhere in Asia. She calls him and she says, "I have a boyfriend. He's like poison. He's like Satan." For 2 hours and a half, she talks and talks and talks about how cruel this man is. He sits patiently like a good physician. And then he says, "Can I say a couple of things?" And Julie says, "Well, yes, of course, Peter. What do you have to say? Give me some wisdom." Leave him. You called me, right? Because you're in pain. You're seeking advice. Here's my advice. Leave him. Yes, that's really, really wise. Okay, I'm going to send him a text right now. He hangs up the phone thinking, "Oh yes, I have done my civil duty, liberated another soul from a toxic relationship." And his friend in the Philippines picks up her phone. She begins to text, "Take care." And she says, "John, I love you." Just because you're in pain, it doesn't mean you're ready for the remedy. It just means you know that you're in pain. Assalamu alaikum. So the first thing you need to understand in regards to this particular section of the story is the following. You know when something is not working for you. You have that knowledge. But just because you're in pain, it doesn't mean you're ready for the remedy. You have to get to a different stage for that. I no longer want to lie. Why do you say that? Because you've experienced the pain of lying. And then you say, how do I go about not lying anymore, not drinking anymore, not smoking anymore, not being an idiot anymore? Well, just because you asked a question, it doesn't mean you're able to receive the answer. And just because you receive the answer, it doesn't mean you're able to apply the answer. We have our good young friend who has his bachelor's in philosophy from UC Berkeley, has his master's in humanities from San Francisco, has his master's in philosophy from San Francisco. He's applied to a few PhD programs, and the answer that he's received from all the schools is no. That's a painful place to be. You're 30, you want to get a job, you want to bring some stability to your physical life, to your emotional life. You enjoy teaching, you want to be on the stage every single day for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. It's like living through the kingdom of God that inside you. You have a talent to be on the stage, but these big schools keep telling you no, and that's painful. And then you say, how do I get rid of this pain? I'm an immigrant. I've gone through the steps you're going through. But it doesn't matter, my wisdom. It's always going to fall on deaf ears. The point is, you may know what pain is. It may even inspire you to seek a remedy for it. But just because the remedy stands in front of you, it doesn't mean you're going to take it. All these physicians at Kaiser, they believe that just in case they get a guy with a poisonous tipped arrow in his back and he's screaming for help, all they have to do is just say, can we pull the arrow out? And the young man will say, yes. No. They go to pull the arrow out, and this young man says, tell me, first you need my consent before you're able to pull the arrow out. And before I give you my consent, I have a question. Assalamu alaikum. What's the width of this arrow? The width? Who cares about the width? I need to know. And that's the second thing you need to understand. It's good to be curious, but be curious for the right reasons, about the right things. Because if you're curious about the wrong things, it's just merely gossip. It's not going to do you any good. The physicians know that they're dealing with an infant, so you know what they do, like all parents. How do you shut up an infant? Well, you just give him what he wants. So they say, okay, the width is 25 feet. Okay, good. They assume now they can pull the arrow out. And just as they're about to, this young man asks, no, wait, the length of the arrow. And the physicians tell him, the hell are you talking about, man? You're bleeding. You're going to die soon. Let us pull the arrow out. And the young man says, no, I'm an American. I live in America. You need my consent. I'll sue Kaiser. You guys will go bankrupt. I'll be rich. You need my consent. The physicians realize that he's right. Again, how do you shut him up? You give him an answer. 50 feet long. Again, they go to pull the arrow out. He says, wait a minute. What's the wood? Redwood? Cedar? Walnut? And the physicians tell him, don't be stupid. Who cares what the wood is? Who cares what the width is? Who cares what the length is? So next time someone comes to you and wants to burden you with their pain, if you're a young teacher like the Buddha, I have no doubt you will listen, you will exercise compassion. You will give this person your time, your energy, your life. Because you're passionate about saving lives. And then you wait and you wait and you wait until your friend's gossip is over, and then you say to them, okay, listen, I have listened to you attentively for the past 45 minutes. Here is what you need to do. And as you're about to open your mouth, they say, wait a minute, I just realized something. What? I have an assignment due. I'll call you like tomorrow. Really? Yeah. Eventually, this young man dies. And the physicians all begin to mourn. We should have done this and we should have done that to save his life. How could we be so stupid as to just keep answering his ridiculous questions? We could have sedated him, put him to sleep and taken the air out. And that's the other thing you need to know about the story. Guilt, remorse, shame comes only when you understand something. Not before, only after. When you get caught by either another or your own understanding, then you feel ashamed for having wasted time and energy on things useless. Now you're saying, well, what the hell does the story really mean? Let me tell you the arrow, what it means. The moment the arrow goes into your back, you are born into life. And here's what you need to know about life and the poison it puts into all of us in this class. And there are 3 of them. There is a remedy, but we'll talk about that later. The first poison that lives inside life is that time will not stop for you. You will get old. You don't have a choice in that. You will get old. But you don't really understand what that means if you're young. See, right now I say you'll just get old. 4 or 5 letters. They sound interesting. But they don't really create the right emotions inside you. And because they lack the proper emotions, you'll continue being lazy in your relationship with old age and with time. The second poison that lives inside this arrow is that when you get old, you will lose abilities, you will get sick. You think Ray and I don't want to go hiking? You think Ray and I don't want to go out and have fun with people? You think Ray and I don't want to stay up till 1 in the morning and read or write and have a good time? Of course we do. You don't think Ray and I enjoy gossip, watching good movies for 5 or 6 hours? Of course we do. Our bodies will no longer allow us to do those things. That's the consequence of getting old. And the thing you need to know about poison is that it just very, very slowly gets into your bloodstream. You're not even aware of it. If you were to ask me, Amir, at what stage did you realize you're getting old? I'll tell you, I still really believe I'm only 20. I even do things like a 20-year-old, but I pay the price later. And here's a third poison that lives inside this arrow. Death. When you ask your question, how do I as a 20-year-old begin to appreciate time? This Buddhist story is your answer. Know that if you're alive, you have this poison inside you. A few days ago, you were only 2. A couple seconds later, you were 10. A couple seconds later, you were 15. Now you sit in this class and you're 20. In a couple of minutes, you'll be 30 and then 40 and then 50. And then you'll catch yourself at the age of 50, this poison now living inside you, and you're aware of it. You can't walk as fast. You can't think as fast. You no longer have the patience you used to. You're calm for 10 minutes and you're screaming for 20 hours. And so what happens when you have this poison living inside you but you're unaware? Well, you take yourself casually. You take time casually. You define the concepts of friendship casually, sickness casually, death casually. You say, oh, I'm only lazy today because I'm tired. I'll be better tomorrow. It's not going to work that way. How do you make someone aware of the poison that lives inside them? Well, I suppose you can do it in 2 ways. You can either beat the hell out of them until they get it, or, which most often, this is the territory of parents, which is, there comes a point you just give up. Say, my son has to go and hit a dead-end road. And then he will understand. You want a way out? Peter? Yeah. Look at Ray. Look at me. You need not read any other books. We are the book. We are sufficient. Read us. When you read Ray, what do you read? Old age. You ask him good questions. Do you have any regrets? Are you happy? Give me your meaning. Where are you going? Where have you been? And you know what he'll tell you, and that's what you read. I didn't mean to offend you. My apologies. How were you able to overcome laziness in thinking? You weren't. I said a few things. They brought you to life. You paid attention. You were consumed by emotions, not so much by thought, but by emotions. I forced you. That is the component you need to become aware. A sangha, someone from the outside poking at you, pushing all the right buttons and forcing you to have coffee with him. And ask him, Ray, be honest. I only have 1 hour before I go to work. How did you mess up? And you better hope this man has some awareness inside him so he can open his book and tell them to you, page by page. But not just talk to you casually. You are going to be his confessional booth. And you know what that means? You are a mirror. He talks to you and sees himself. And something will happen to you in that confession that he makes to you. You'll come to life. First, you'll feel sorry for him. You'll go home and gossip about him. You'll go on your Facebook and say, oh, I ran into this guy. He's old and he sucks. But if you're able to kind of transform that story and internalize it, I too will be like Ray. I will be hit by this arrow called old age. I will have regrets like him. I will have shame like him. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to talk to him about your pain. Only to realize he listens, he just doesn't hear. Then you'll talk to him. He listens, he doesn't hear. You'll talk to this entire class. Everybody listens. But they don't hear you. هر کسی از ظن خود شد یار من و از درون من نجست اسرار من. Everybody listens with the ears of their head. But you see, you need someone who has a soul inside them so they can listen to you but feel your pain. Your question about how do I value time, youth, energy needs to have the proper pain inside it. Who gives you that pain? Socrates. Bites you over and over and over again so that you as a 20-year-old stand outside of you. Next time you want to drink, there's a Peter looking at Peter saying, oh, Peter, do you really want to do that? And the Peter with wings will have conflict. Should I pursue the passions of the body or passions of the mind? That's how you overcome laziness. You can't do it on your own. Impossible. Find pathetic, miserable people, Peter, like me, like him. And if you have any maturity to us, we'll tell you some good stories. You probably won't get them, but they'll function as seeds inside you. And hopefully as you live out your life, sometimes life forces will push these buttons inside you and you say, oh yes, I'll tell you a story and then we'll go home. A few days ago, I got an email from a man named John Johnson. I have no idea who this guy is. And he said to me in the email, I am one of your former students from Sierra College. Sierra College is about, 20 some odd years away. I don't even remember Sierra College. But Ray will do something that I did to this particular fellow some 20 years ago. He will plant a seed inside you. You'll probably forget it. Assume that we're just a regular conversation, casual conversation with Ray. And then when you're like 35, something will happen. You'll go to Pete's, and Ray by then will be dead. So will I. As you're going to Pete's, you run into someone who just looks like Ray or looks like me. And all of a sudden, this chapter unfolds. You say, oh, I remember that guy. What was his name? Ray. Oh, yes. And I went and had coffee with him. And he told me what a piece of crap I was. Man, he was so right. How is it that it took me such a long time to understand that? And then you go back in time and then you play the conversation you had recorded on your phone. Before you leave, let me just say, I hope that nothing I said offended any of you. It was really more for special effects. You know, what would Star Wars be without special effects?
A religious movie.
So just in case some of you in this class were offended, I apologize. Don't take it to heart. Do you have any questions or comments before we leave? Have a nice weekend. Tell your parents I said hello.